Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Sixang, and today I'm going to be doing a review on Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Unleashed is considered to be one of the first games in the series to use the boost formula, a gameplay mechanic found in titles like Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, and even the upcoming Sonic Frontiers. But what separates Sonic Unleashed from the aforementioned titles is the implementation of the Werehog, a different form of Sonic that shifts gameplay to a more action-oriented, beat-em-up style. This is what I would say truly makes Sonic Unleashed unique in comparison to other titles in the series. Sonic Unleashed was released in most parts of the world in 2008 and was available on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 2 and 3, as well as the Nintendo Wii. The Wii and PS2 versions are kind of watered down versions of the PS3 and 360 versions, but generally speaking, they still have the same heart of their HD counterparts. For this review, I played the 360 version on my Xbox Series X, which is considered to be the highest quality version of the game. This is the only version currently available that allows you to play the game at 60 FPS. When you look this game up online, you'll notice it has mixed reviews from critics, leaning more towards negative than positive. However, if you look in the Sonic community, there are some people that consider this the best 3D Sonic game of all time. At first, I thought this was a sentiment held by a niche group of people, but surprisingly as time has passed, I've noticed more and more people praise this game. For me, I never really played this game growing up. However, I do remember briefly renting this game from my local video rental store. Y'all remember those? I don't think I spent too much time with it though, cause at this point in my life, I wasn't really playing Sonic games anymore. I explained this in more context in my History with Sonic video, which you can find in the card on screen. So you can say this is my first time playing through the game, and after playing it, I have a lot to say. Let's jump into it. For starters, let's do a quick rundown on what's going on in the story of this game. The game opens up with an amazing CGI cutscene that has Sonic infiltrating one of Eggman's spaceships. Before it can thwart Eggman's plans, Eggman captures Sonic while he's in supersonic form and drains him and the Chaos Emeralds of their power. Eggman then uses their energy to fire a beam into the planet's core. This triggers the awakening of an entity named Dark Gaia, which causes the planet to separate into 7 fragmented pieces. Simultaneously, Sonic turns into the Werehog for the first time, and is subsequently ejected from Eggman's ship. Once Sonic lands on Earth, he meets a fairy-looking animal thing? It's hard to describe him, but the name he's given later on is Chip. Chip has no recollection of his memories, so Sonic vows to help him get his memories back. And the journey of Sonic and Chip exploring the world begins. And I mean that quite literally. In Sonic Unleashed, you traverse fictional cities of the world based on countries like Greece, France, China, the US, etc. The reason for traversing the world goes beyond just helping Chip though. Early on in the game, you meet up with Tails, and he mentions that you should find a man named Professor Pickle to help figure out what's happened to the world. Professor Pickle explains that you must restore power to the Chaos Emeralds by taking them to temples listed in the Gaia manuscripts, the 7 temples being located all across the world. Once power is restored to the Chaos Emeralds, the planet will begin to heal naturally, and things should return back to normal. In Sonic Unleashed, you're able to fast travel between different cities in the world. The cities contain small hub areas that allow you to access the different levels within the game. But the most notable part about this is the day and night cycle. This can be changed manually, and depending on the time of day, it determines if you play as Sonic or as the Werehog. Sonic and the Werehog offer very different gameplay styles. As Sonic, you experience what is known as the boost gameplay, and as the Werehog, you experience the beat 'em up styled gameplay. First, let's talk about regular Sonic and how he controls in this game. If you're not familiar, you may be wondering, what does boost gameplay mean? Boost is the gameplay mechanic that Sonic can use to burst forward and increase his speed. Think of it like nitros in a car. Press a button and you immediately go faster. If you've seen any of my previous Sonic review videos, you'll know that I've never been a big fan of this gameplay style. However, after playing this game, it definitely changed my perspective. This game is known in the community to have some of the best boost gameplay, which is a bit strange since it was one of the first to implement it. The reason I wasn't a fan of the boost formula is because I always thought it was a bit overwhelming. I know the point of Sonic has always been to go fast, but personally, I like when Sonic is a bit more tame and slowed down, like in SA2 and Sonic 06. When Sonic is going faster than my eyes and brain can process, it kinda takes away the fun of playing the game. But after playing as Sonic and experiencing his boost firsthand, I gotta say I enjoyed it a lot more than I originally expected. Most of my experience from playing Boost prior to Unleashed was through Sonic Generations, another highly praised game in the Sonic community. It's a game I haven't played all the way through, but plan on doing a full review on sometime in the future. I think what always put me off from Generations was the constant shift between boost and 2D platforming sections. Although Unleashed transitions between this sometimes, I feel like the flow is a lot better in Unleashed than what I've experienced in Generations. Most of the time, the gameplay of Sonic is non-stop speeding through levels. I originally thought the game was more on rails and didn't require much user input, but that's definitely not the case. There are plenty of times that you need to stay aware in order to not interrupt the flow and lose your momentum. And if your reactions aren't fast enough or you're unfamiliar with the level, you will lose lives. This used to be one of my biggest gripes with the boost games, that you can only get good at levels with repetition, a concept similar to classic Sonic games. And this is why I haven't been able to get into those games. I don't like the gimmicks the game can throw at you and make you automatically die and start things over. It completely ruins the fluidity of the level for me and dampens my experience. However, when working on this playthrough, an analogy popped in my head. What if I were to think of the boost levels like racetracks? Think about it. As a driver, your lap times on a track generally get better over time as you do the course over and over because you become more familiar with it. This leads to you becoming more satisfied with your driving experience. So I decided to apply this mindset to playing this game. Although sometimes the game had me cursing and on the brink of throwing my controller, it helped once I started to think of the boost levels in this way. And this is why I say Sonic Unleashed changed my perspective on the boost games. This gameplay still isn't what I prefer from Sonic, but I now can understand why people have fun with it, and why I experience joy when playing it myself. It can be a bit nuanced and difficult at times, but mastering difficult sections or levels in general is very satisfying once you know what you're doing. Those are my thoughts on the boost gameplay, but what about the Werehog? This aspect of the game is probably the most contested part of Sonic Unleashed because it's a huge departure from what Sonic is known for. As the Werehog, the gameplay is significantly slowed down and focuses primarily on combat with enemies. But before diving deeper into the gameplay, I want to talk about the concept of the Werehog. I might get a lot of hate for this, but hear me out. I always thought the Werehog was a stupid concept. Why would an animal turn into a different animal? Makes more spooky sense when a human turns into a wolf. Now, despite my preconceptions and not being keen on the Werehog, this game changed my mind with this opinion as well, and now I'm on board with the Werehog. Overall, I actually like playing as the Werehog more than regular Sonic. The slower paced gameplay was more up my alley, and beating up enemies as the Werehog feels really satisfying. This might be a stretch, but the gameplay reminded me a lot of the Yakuza series, one of my favorite gaming franchises and another series owned by Sega. At the end of each level, you have the ability to upgrade different skills for the Werehog. While technically not a skill tree, its function is very similar, and the more you upgrade the Werehog skills, the better the gameplay becomes. Sonic also has a couple of skills that you can upgrade separate from the Werehog, but I didn't feel like they were as relevant as the Werehog's upgrades. Level design for the Werehog is a lot more platform oriented, and because the gameplay is slower than with Sonic, the completion time for these levels can get pretty up there. I would say for standard Sonic levels, you'll spend about 2 to 4 minutes completing these, but with the Werehog, these levels can take about 15 to 30 minutes, so this is where you'll spend the majority of your playthrough. And because I preferred the Werehog over Sonic, this was no issue to me. However, what can be an issue is the medal system. There are 2 types of medals you can collect in Sonic Unleashed, Sun and Moon medals. These can be found in both Sonic and the Werehog levels, and they are needed to progress through the game. Some of them are trickier to find than others, and you may need to replay levels in order to move on with the game's main story. To me, this wasn't that big of an issue because I had foresight. Whenever I've heard people talk about this game, they mention the medal system, so I knew I had to keep an eye out for them. But even with this in mind, I was 23 Sun medals short for one of the final levels. This had me backtracking as well as doing some of the optional, more difficult stages. Even with this situation, it didn't take me more than a couple of hours to find the necessary amount, so I won't count the medal system as a major negative. Next, I want to talk about the endgame and my opinions on the overall story of the game. Take this as a spoiler warning. At first, I thought Chip would be a bit overbearing and become an annoying companion, but boy was I wrong. The connection between Sonic and Chip felt really genuine, and I think this helped a lot with the story building of this game. Although characters like Tails and Amy appear, it's really Chip that's the star of the show alongside Sonic. And the reason for this is because he's the counterpart to Dark Gaia. As Light Gaia, it is his responsibility to battle Dark Gaia whenever he is awakened and seal him back into the Earth. Once Chip regains his memories, he doesn't want to burden Sonic with his mission, but Sonic sticks by his side so they can take Dark Gaia down together. The final level in Sonic Unleashed is Eggman Land. As you can guess, this is the most tedious level in all of Sonic Unleashed and took me nearly an hour to beat. The really cool thing about this level though is that you can switch between Sonic and the Werehog in certain sections. I thought this was a great touch and really makes it feel like an epic final level. Once you clear it, you have a brief boss battle against Eggman, but once you beat him, you finally get to face Dark Gaia. If you were wondering how little old Chip would take down Dark Gaia, he uses his powers to bring together the temples to form what looks like a Megazord from Power Rangers, officially named the Gaia Colossus. Sonic rides along with Chip while in this form, and once he gets close enough to Dark Gaia, Sonic attacks his weak spot. This specific part of the game was the most difficult to me. The sections when attacking Dark Gaia are preceded by short boost levels that are timed. If you can't reach the weak spot in time, you lose a life. The first couple levels are fine, but the last one took me a while to get down. And this isn't even the end of the boss battle. Once you get Dark Gaia's health down to 0, you now face his final form. Luckily when this happens, Sonic is finally able to go supersonic, and this section is a lot more forgiving. Dark Gaia puts up a shield that you need to take out, and once it's down, Sonic and Chip are able to defeat him once and for all. Unfortunately, once the battle ends, Chip must return to sleep at the planet's core, but save Sonic from being trapped before the world seals itself back together. Overall, I feel like the story in this game was really cohesive. From the plot to the voice acting, I was really invested in seeing how Sonic and Chip's journey unfolded. It's not a very mature storyline, but it also didn't feel like it was aimed at kids. It was pretty neutral, which I liked. There were some jokes and hijinks, but nothing over the top that made it feel cringe. I'm pretty happy with this game's story and hope to see Sonic games return to a similar formula. Per usual, we have to take some time to talk about this game's music. Sonic Unleashed favors a more orchestral focused soundtrack. From the title screen to the battle music as the Werehog, these are significant changes to Sonic games of past, but it works. It definitely gives the game a more epic feel and almost a cinematic vibe with this music choice. And since Tomoyo Watani was one of the main composers of this game, there's plenty of rock and other genres featured as well. Some of my favorite tracks from this game come from the levels. Cool Edge and Rooftop Run are main standouts to me, but my favorite song of all in Unleashed has to be Endless Possibility. This track features the vocalist from Bowling for Soup, Jared Reddick, and is an upbeat rock song. Even though I didn't own this game growing up, I remember having this song on my phone and it being one of my favorite Sonic tracks. I just love the overall positive vibe it has, and hearing the lyrics always inspires me. If you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out the version from the Sonic Symphony concert featuring Nate Wants to Battle. I'm not afraid to admit it, I was proved wrong by this game. I had a lot of preconceived judgments on it, especially the boost formula, but after playing through it, I can say I had a lot of fun with Sonic Unleashed. It's one of the few games I've played this year that I just wasn't able to put down. I will say it's a little bit overhyped, but that's with anyone's favorite game. For me, I know Sonic Adventure 2 isn't the best game ever, but it will always be one of my favorite games, as well as my favorite Sonic game. I think the timing of me playing Unleashed was perfect, not only because I played through this in October, but because Sonic Frontiers is right around the corner. This is most relevant because of the games both including fleshed out combat systems. And although there's no Werehog in Frontiers, I'm really interested to see how the combat systems compare to one another. I seriously can't wait for that game. But that's going to do it for my review on Sonic Unleashed. I plan on doing more content on Sonic in the future, so if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more video game content from me. Let me know in the comments if you prefer Sonic or the Werehog gameplay in Sonic Unleashed. And if you're interested, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @6ang for updates and funny posts. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you tune into the next one and have a great rest of your day. Peace.